Hey guys, what's up and welcome to a new Tesla update video. So today, as per usual, we're going to be going over the market, seeing, essentially what happened. Overall, a fantastic day. A bit of a weaker finish, of course, than, it could have been, in my opinion. But nonetheless, overall, fantastic day. And I think we're setting up for essentially a great, maybe next week, potentially, maybe tomorrow, next week. I think we're looking quite good here. So again, Tesla ending the day 4.65% up, which ended up being an increase of $34.40, which resulted in a 774.77 closure. So let's take a look at the daily chart very quickly, first and foremost, guys. So the most important thing, as I'm sure you can notice, is the fact that we did finally break out of the channel and on fair volume as well. 28 million, pretty much in line. So that's good. We broke out on good volume. So yeah, so we finally broke out of this downtrend, which is a very, very good sign. We did get kind of smashed down a little bit harder than I would have liked to see, but nonetheless, fantastic close regardless, which is perfectly fine. Like, imagine if we ended above like 785, that would have been pretty nuts, but nonetheless, still pretty decent in my honest opinion. Now, the question, of course, is, well, what happens next, right? So let's talk about that. So what can we expect to happen next? What is potentially the next step here? So let's go on the 2 hour actually. We'll do the 2 hour for now. So essentially, as I said, sorry, I bit my mouth and it's sore. As I said, I want to try talking slower as well. People were complaining I talk too fast, which I do. But nonetheless, we did break out of the red line, right? Which is really, really important. Now, one thing I could potentially see happening, which is like a typical thing that happens when, again, you break out of these kind of situations, is a retest of the previous, or of the breakout. So in other words, what can potentially happen, maybe tomorrow, is we come down to around, the mid 700s, let's say, probably bounce somewhere around there, and then continue rocketing back up. And essentially what that would do, assuming of course we bounce, which we should, but assuming that happens, that's perfectly fine. It's perfectly reasonable and understandable. And I think, no one should be too shocked if it does happen. But essentially what that would mean is the fact that we're just coming down to retest this, the red line essentially, which is of course the breakout line that we just broke out of with this nice juicy candle. And we're essentially just confirming the breakout, pretty much, if that makes sense. We're confirming that, this breakout is a legitimate one. It's not a fake out, because one thing that can technically happen is we come down, let's say, in theory, to, come retest it. We fail the retest, and we just drop right back in. And if that happens, that's pretty bearish. So that's what you don't want to see. What you want to see, if we do come down, is essentially, again, a retest of the red line, but a fairly nice bounce, and confirming that this is now considered a support as opposed to a constant resistance, as you can see. So that's going to be pretty important. That's option one. If that doesn't happen, option two is we essentially maybe go down a tiny bit more, but not enough to essentially retest the red line. But essentially what we do is we form what pretty much will be more or less another little bit of a bull flag we have setting up over here, as you can see. So we essentially started the day off from here. Pretty brutal start initially, 726 all the way up to 792. So if you happen to be someone that bought at the top and bought at the top. So bought at the bottom and sold at the top, you would have made a nice 9% return, which is pretty ridiculous actually. So Tesla essentially went up 9% today, pretty much from the bottom, which is fantastic. So, but what I was saying is, we are essentially setting up this kind of mini kind of bull flag over here, where pretty much what you want to see is more or less kind of a break of this general level, which pretty much would be a break of this kind of rectangular box, if you will, that I have, which essentially would put us somewhere around, for the sake of simplicity, 785 I think is what we'd want to see, another 785 break, and if we can do that again, I think that's when we can potentially start rocketing up to 800, and at the very least retest 800, and we'll see what happens from there, of course. Now, that's kind of what I'm personally seeing at the moment, on top of everything else that I've obviously mentioned as well. I do want to look at the monthly candle. I actually forgot to look at the monthly candle the other day when June ended up closing. So let's go ahead and zoom in a little bit here. We'll take a look at the monthly candle, of course. May, not June. And the May candle for the monthly candle looks pretty mediocre. It's kind of undecided. It's slightly more bearish than bullish for the simplicity of the fact that it's red, and it, of course, obviously, because it's red, ended lower than it started. But the fact that there's clearly an insane amount of buying pressure all the way down here. You can see anytime we went under recently, 750, there's just been buying pressure, right? Here we went under, buying pressure, buying pressure, buying pressure, right? So there's constant buying pressure under 750, maybe not right away, but nonetheless, there very much is. So that's a decent sign in my opinion. So that's good. So that's a good sign to see, of course. But yeah, other than that, pretty much what I have been saying for the past week, essentially, you know, assuming we break out, we run up, you know, I still think is very much intact. Now, again, the question still lies. It's like, okay, well, maybe how far can we potentially go? You know, considering we are still, of course, in a downtrend, what you want to do is get a Fibonacci, go from here to here roughly, and this can give you a rough idea as to potentially how far this bounce can lead us. And I personally wouldn't be too surprised, honestly, if we get up to somewhere around the mid 800s. That wouldn't surprise me too much. At the very least, 824. I really, like, again, assuming we play out the little mini bull flag that I just told you that we're in, you know, we break above 785 roughly, kind of hold that and maintain that, and then go up to retest 800, and then obviously assuming we break 800, like, again, I wouldn't be surprised, assuming those conditions are met, that we definitely rally up and ultimately get up to about maybe 820, between 824 to 886, somewhere in that general range. I truly wouldn't be surprised to see at least one of these two hits minimum. A minimum 824. Like, I'd be pretty shocked if we at some point don't at least hit 824 after this like beautiful trend line breakouts. That would be quite disappointing, I'll be completely honest. So at the very least, I'm expecting a run to 824 sometime in June, if not potentially maybe close to 860 roughly. So that's kind of what I'm personally seeing at the very moment. As usual, we'll take a look at the Bollinger Bands. You know, obviously, you know, one of my personal favorite tools to use here on the daily. Let's take a look at there first. Let's go ahead and do a quick reset of the chart here. Zoom in on the white part of it, and you can see now we are very much above it, right? So like I said, you know, we came over here, got kind of rejected a bit, went up above it, got rejected, pretty much ended right at it, then ended below it. You know, we were kind of dancing around it for the most part, but now we very well broke above it, which is great. Now you're going to see this white line start to kind of curve and slowly start to follow us upwards, assuming, of course, we continue rallying up, you know, over the next, you know, few days or a week or two, right? So that's going to slowly start curving up as it starts matching us. You can see the RSI is still looking quite beautiful, still setting a nice higher high over here, even though this, like, even the RSI had this kind of like mini bull flag right here. You can kind of see beautiful breakout as well on it. So all in all, like, I like the way we're looking. This is why I said yesterday, I wasn't personally worried that we ended the day down here. I'm like, you know, I'm not a huge, you know, I'm not too worried. Wouldn't be surprised if we get to 722. We didn't. We actually got to 726, close enough. But nonetheless, that's why I said I wasn't too worried. I'm like, you know, I would only really start worrying if we break 700. That's when I would personally start kind of sweating a little bit, you know. But nonetheless, you know, very close to what I said is going to played out, which is always great to see. You know, makes me feel good about that, of course. Taking a look at the Bollinger Band one more time on the 1 hour, you can see still a little bit tight, right? Still not too crazy. You know, I had this little tightness over here, which did explode to the upside. But again, it's not like anything too crazy, because we were still kind of trading within this general range still. We didn't really truly break out of the range, because even though we dropped all the way down to here, that was still kind of within the range that we were in, right? So that wasn't anything completely new. And even us going all the way up to 790 still isn't like that much higher than 780. So it's still like kind of within the range. So we didn't get like a real breakout for the Bollinger Band at least. So you're going to see it potentially get tight here, maybe even tomorrow if nothing, you know, crazy happens tomorrow. If tomorrow is like a more or less sideways day, you're going to start seeing this to start curl downwards, and this is going to curl upwards, and it's going to get tight again, and then that's going to, of course, signal another imminent breakout, which, again, especially considering the situation that we're in with the breakout of the trend line, I'm definitely expecting that to be a breakout to the top side. So that's going to be definitely something exciting to look at. Taking a very quick look at the moving average, you can see the 5. Which one is this do I have right now? This is the 9. Why do I have the 9? Let me go ahead and change that. Let's go to the 5. So the 5-day moving average, you can see here, reveal that one more time, is so we're well above that now, which is a great sign, and we've maintained above it. You can see here we kind of bounced above it yesterday, kind of bounced from it today as well, and now we're sitting well above it, which is fantastic. Currently sitting at $748, so we're well above that, which shows that the momentum so far is looking bullish. It's looking nice. It's looking like, you know, we want to look for a potential rally to the upside, which is always a great sign, of course. I'm happy to see that as well. Another one you can look at for the moving averages is, of course, taking a look at the 10. 10 is not bad as well. It's you know, well above that as well. So all in all, like, we're well above the 10 moving average. So overall, we're still looking bullish. As long as the 10 moving average pretty much holds, I think we're still setting up for a decent move. But especially if we can stay consistently above the 5-day moving average, it's more of like an immediate short-term kind of, you know, bullish sentiment, if you will. You know, as long as we can maintain above that as well, that's fantastic. So one thing that, like I said, wouldn't be too surprising is if we come down maybe tomorrow, potentially, again, as an option to come retest the breakout, which in turn probably would coincide with this 5-day moving average. So that'll be as a double support essentially, right? A support of the red line and a support of the 5-day moving average. So that can kind of give us a nice kind of area to look to bounce from and confirm this breakout, or we can contend just not go down anywhere near enough to actually retest both of these and just, again, like I said, play out essentially this kind of mini bull flag that we are currently in and just essentially bounce off of that, which actually said based on the way it's looking right now, I truly wouldn't be surprised if it happens actually tomorrow, like pretty early tomorrow. That wouldn't surprise me because we're currently setting up a pretty decent looking bull flag right like this. Like it's looking quite textbook. It's a 1, 2, 3, 4 touch point already. Like I said, usually the 5th touch point more often than not is usually where the breakout will occur. So for instance, we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, come up to like, let's say 780, something like that, 780, 782, probably get rejected a little bit and then just break through, and then a breakthrough of that plus a 785, both of these together, I think will be a great signal that, you know what, we're probably going to be touching 800 at the very least tomorrow. And again, I wouldn't be surprised if that happens tomorrow also. So yeah, so it'd be pretty interesting to see, but regardless of the path that we take, I'm still overall net bullish for the short term. Long term, I'm still bearish. Short term, I am bullish. Short term, I do think we have a nice move setting up here, and I'm looking, and I'm very happy with how it's looking. So yeah, pretty much everything I've been saying for the past few days, if not even a couple of weeks, is just essentially playing out, and it's looking beautiful, and things are just looking like they want to rally. The SPY and the QQQ, as you can see here, very bullish close on the SPY, just pushing well above this kind of 415 resistance. So that's a very nice thing to see. One thing again, if Tesla decides to come down and retest the red line, the breakout line that would essentially mean that the SPY can come down, retest this breakout as well, essentially from this box, kind of like it did here, and then bounce. That wouldn't be too surprising as well. So same thing with the QQQ. The market short term looks like it wants to rally. It really does. Short term, it looks like it wants to just keep going. It looks like we're getting a bit of a short squeeze. Again, even if tomorrow might be a potential red day, in my opinion, it would just be a confirmation of the breakouts that we have been seeing today. So yeah, all in all, that's what I'm seeing, guys. Let me know what you think down below. I'm bullish. I'm feeling good for the next week. Honestly, I think next week, maybe even tomorrow, are looking fantastic. And yeah, I'm happy with the way things look. So that's kind of what I'm seeing right now. That's what I'm thinking. And yeah, if anything changes, I will, of course, update you guys as per usual. But until then, hope you guys have a wonderful day, and I'll see you tomorrow. Peace.